Hello and welcome to Tuning In 2021, Radiocentres annual celebration of audio coming live from central London. My name's Neve Spencer. You may remember me from all the years that I was on Kiss FM, the Queen of History, or more recently on Magic FM weekends. I'll be your event host and your DJ this morning. Now, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers today, with each session looking to explore a different angle of the audio revolution. Coming up, we'll be hearing from Radiocentres new CEO, Ian Moss, LBC host Rachel Johnson, Kiss star Els the Witch, and content director Rebecca Frank. We'll have a preview of Radiocentres new research study. Legendary audio creative Ralph Van Dyke will join us, as will comic legend John Cleese. John will be talking with Matthew Wright later today. Now, we'll explore the power of audio with an incredible panel. Poet and mental health activist Hussein Manoar will be here. Broadcast legend Johnny Vaughan is talking radio and podcasts. And we're going to look into the future of audio advertising with Charlie Cadbury. And chart topper Tom Grennan will close the event. Now, you can get involved today whether you're here with us in the room or watching along virtually by asking questions and taking part in polls. Head to sly.do and use the code TUNINGIN or comment via the box below the screen. And of course, you can post on socials, use the hashtag TUNINGIN. Now, we have a jam-packed morning full of fast-paced sessions, so let's get things underway by introducing to the stage Radiocentres new CEO, Ian Moss.
Fantastic host and DJ for the morning, Neve. Also thanks to the amazing poet, Hussein Manoar, for writing such a powerful piece of the role that radio plays in people's lives. Thanks also to the team for putting this together, and particularly to George, who I believe will be having his first night of restful sleep tonight after a week. But it's been a tremendous effort by the whole team getting it all together. Thanks to those who are watching remotely. It's good to introduce myself to you for the first time, and amazing as well that we have three dimensions from many of you. Great to have you in the room. My own dimension slightly enhanced by lockdown, as perhaps others have felt. But in these times, people turn to radio to feel part of a community because they trust it, because they feel more positive when they listen. And when people can choose what they listen to, not constrained by workplace or colleagues, they choose to listen to radio. And a vast proportion of that is commercial radio. I, like probably many of you, was born with radio in the house. Music was the sound of the day. In the car, we listened to medium wave radio as we went north, with the sound going off under every bridge as we drove north to my grandparents'. Force's request show was the background to Sunday lunch, and Sunday night was the chart show, which, with apologies to my previous employers, we would record and tape and catalogue each song we enjoyed into a series of cassettes. My evenings were the dulcet tones of the Kid Jensen Show, or Peter Jones and Dennis Law taking me through an international football match. And the theme tune reminding me to sleep was John Peel. I finally got clock radio and woke up to the radio every morning. I had requests read out on several shows, Annie Nightingale. Failed to win any singles on the Peter Powell record race. It was Red Box, Lean On Me. It was a one-hit wonder. How was I supposed to know? And then on the 5th of September 1983, two momentous things happened. The first thing was it was my birthday, and I turned 13, ready to face the world. The other thing was that Signal Radio launched the first commercial station in Stoke-on-Trent, my hometown. And finally there was, as my wife tells me, music radio for people like me. Playing music I liked, presenters talking about the things that I could relate to, that mentioned the place that I lived in. Before that, media was far away, but this seemed to be near, not just because of place, but because of how it sounded, how the presenters talked, how the playlists worked, and I threw myself into it. I would record jingles for the evening show, leave them on the answer phone under an assumed name. I called up to enter competitions and still have the inventory of shirts, mugs, and tickets to gigs. And eventually, I was asked by my favourite presenter if I fancy coming in to help out. So I'd go in and fill out the PRS and PPL information, draw the clock, fetch the tea. And to me, that's how I wanted to spend my world. Radio is where I always wanted to be. And to be here is absolutely fantastic. What I hope to do is use the skills that I've learned in other aspects of my life to help those that make radio, who create this incredible experience, continue to innovate, evolve, and deliver in a medium that's proven to be a source of real joy and happiness for people across the nation. We've done some recent research studies on this, in which it's no surprise we found that 84% of people say that it keeps them company. It's important to remind us just how many people listen to radio on a weekly basis. The recent radar figures, released a few weeks ago, showed that commercial radio is reaching an audience of nearly 37 million people, a record. Radio is the most trusted medium for news, with 77% of listeners saying they trust it, a higher proportion than any other media. And it's encouraging to hear that businesses continue to use radio as a platform for reaching consumers, with radio's advertising revenues set for double-digit growth year on year, according to the latest WRC report. But this is no surprise to people who work in radio. We are in the midst of an audio revolution, but one in which radio is the central element. During the challenges of a pandemic, commercial radio was there, continuing to offer audiences an increasingly diversified choice, new brands, big-name talent. And since Radiocentre last held its tuning-in event, we've seen the launch of new stations, Capital Dance, Boom Radio, the likes of Mr. Jam and Big Zoo joining the commercial radio sector. And for those of you like me, the upper end of that age range, I'm reliably informed that Big Zoo is a very big deal on the socials. But to give you a small taste of exactly what commercial radio has to offer, we've got a short montage of some of our highlights from the year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Sheeran!
Hello. Little Mix, ladies and gentlemen. Girls, it's so nice to be in person.
Dave, it's Dave from the UK. Indeed. Nice to see you.
Now, if you say to someone on the high street, Noel now, they're going to go Gallagher.
Do you want to come and perform with us on Tuesday?
Yes! Oh my God!
Okay, great.
Is this a joke? Are we getting pranked?
No, it's for real.
Celebrating International Nurses Day.
So proud to be a nurse. So happy International Nurses Day to all those smashing it right now.
Hello, Adele.
Oh my God, it's uncanny. I've never seen it like in my life.
Let's all cheer you up, because you've just won £25,025 and 25 pence.
You're joking? Oh my God. I can't believe that.
And new figures this morning show a record number of people are now listening to LBC.
What I want to talk about is the pandemic.
You're locked into Kiss Life. We debate systemic racism.
You can't emotionally connect with the truth.
Don't talk to me about emotionally. Don't lecture me.
I'm delayed. We're proud. You got to take the positives.
The coronavirus vaccine rollout. More than 70% of adults in England have now had one dose and over 40% have had both.
It was a very female-dominated Brit Awards last night. 4,000 people were in the crowd at London's O2 Arena as part of a government pilot scheme.
Most of the last remaining COVID restrictions in England have been lifted.
What will you say on World Mental Health Day? Every radio station across the nation, we're all broadcasting the same energy.
It would be great to keep talking.
Because our mental health binds every single one of us together.
An incredible year in many ways, and a year, again, where choice has exploded. This increased choice, combined with exciting listening, innovation, developing digital experience, has ensured that commercial radio continues to deliver value for both audiences and for brands. This morning, we're going to be delving deeper into all of this as we explore the audio revolution, which of course provides huge opportunities, but is also, as always, a challenge that keeps us moving, keeps us innovating. Some of the challenges are familiar and common across different media. For example, we all know that digital disruptions continue to intensify and shows no sign of abating. Digital ad spend has grown from nothing to become the dominant form of advertising over the past 20 years. Obviously, with Google, Facebook accounting for 70% of digital ad spend, you have to question whether this market is functioning effectively and transparently. whether there needs to be a closer look at the question of dominance. Alongside this, we know that competition has never been more intense for audiences, given the range of entertainment options now available. We see this every day in radio and audio, with explosion of choice in linear broadcast stations, growth in online radio, music, streaming, and podcasts, not to mention the unique challenge of competing with the might of the BBC, as it seeks to reposition itself and attract younger audiences. And these competitive challenges have probably intensified following the unprecedented events of the past 18 months and the incredibly tough environment facing all businesses due to the difficult economic circumstances during COVID-19. While the overall picture now for revenues looks more encouraging, it's worth noting that it's still uneven. And Radiocente's focus is to tackle all of these challenges and maximize opportunities so that radio contains the sort of bright star of the audio revolution, with the rest of audio orbiting around it. And that is exactly what we've been doing, whether it's policy and regulation, marketing research, our clearance work of adverts. We keep a laser focus on the interests of our members, and big and small. And the benefits of this work is not always immediately apparent, but can be significant. For instance, the recent government DCMS radio and audio review, it's not exactly a light read, but the commitment that makes to the future of radio, we're not rolling, followed from the government to legislate in support of guaranteed access and prominence of radio online is a significant marker for our industry's future. Our friends in Parliament have since followed this up with our own report, calling for swift plan and immediate implementation. And here's a short video explaining a little more.
On commercial radio is an alliance of MPs and peers who love radio. With so much happening in audio right now, the group has published a new report on the radio industry's future. While the choice of radio has never been better, there are a number of challenges ahead, such as making sure that listeners can continue to access their favourite stations for free. The report sets out a number of important recommendations for government to make sure that commercial radio is able to continue to deliver music, entertainment, and trusted news to its 36 million listeners. The APPG recommends a government action plan for radio, with guaranteed requirements around digital audio platforms, finalising deregulation, and rethinking garbled T's and C's in radio ads. The group has also called for an urgent review of Ofcom's regulation of the BBC, to keep BBC radio output distinctive and minimise any negative impact on commercial stations. It's an exciting time for the sector, but it's important for the future of radio that government considers these recommendations.
We'll now put the work in to ensure that the commitments are followed up in the government's white paper on the broadcasting at the end of this year, and hopefully in a new bill. A hard slog, but an essential step in helping secure a strong future for radio online. And our work in trying to limit the negative impact of Ofcom's proposed changes to the BBC regulation on the radio industry is a huge task. But the risks we've pointed out are real. They're based on solid evidence of the downward drift of BBC's output towards its floor targets. The fact that the BBC receives $3.7 billion in licence fee funding means they must be held to high standards and provide distinctive public service radio, whether that's speech content on local radio or new British music on Radio 1. They have over 50% of audience share, and the regulator needs to always look closely at why that is happening and whether it is at the expense of their core obligations. If Ofcom removes quotas on the BBC radio services, it will risk taking away the floor that supports the range and diversity of UK radio. A lax regulatory framework could narrow the options for listeners and damage commercial operators unfairly. So we continue to make the case for BBC regulation that is tough but fair, given the dominant and privileged position it has in radio. But of course, our day-to-day work that any radio centre chief executive must always keep in mind is our role in showcasing and promoting the incredible range and impact of commercial radio for audiences and for advertisers. Generating research, thought leadership on radio's role, now and in the future. Retaining our position as the medium with the most publicly available research on advertising effectiveness, working in collaboration to harness radio's power. And that work continues apace. Later on, we'll launch a new study, which has looked at thousands of radio ads to analyse what traits make it for an effective campaign. It's a massive undertaking and will provide an incredible data source. But hold that thought, more on that from the team later. Throughout the last year and a half, we ran numerous snapshot studies on shifting radio listening habits during the height of the pandemic. Our Force for Good report showed that commercial radio was delivering more news more often during lockdown, as well as continuing to provide that highly trusted information I talked about earlier. Updates, entertainment, and companionship. Our Beyond the Bubble study showed commercial radio's unique connection with a broad range of audiences across the UK who are less likely to consume news and information from other media. And that's an important reach that commercial radio has. Our ability to connect with audiences across the nation presents a great opportunity for small, medium-sized businesses to reach consumers in areas that matter to them. Earlier this year, we launched our Backing Brilliant Business campaign, which aims to help SMEs across the UK grow with radio. A new resource hub, of virtual events, success story videos, and a tool which links businesses with local stations. So we're helping to provide the assets which help organisations use radio effectively. We're hoping to lower the cost of search marketing, increase online browsing, and deliver a strong return on investment, which we know that local advertising does on radio. Later on, you'll hear from a fantastic shopping centre in Leeds that has used radio to grow footfall. Companies that use radio tend to love it. And we want to inspire more brilliant businesses to turn to audio. Another way we're doing it through the pandemic is through our virtual training sessions, which have continued. And one of the great things about virtual here and through our training is I think sometimes we get to reach a wider audience than would otherwise be the case. And this, along with our clearance, the team's diligent work, helps to ensure that radio is a safe space for all advertisers, something radio has been and will continue to be for years to come. And in the Young Audio Awards, we have both eyes on the future of talent. The awards, which are supported by commercial and BBC Radio, look to engage young audio lovers across the UK, providing opportunities to young people from all kinds of backgrounds across the country to explore the world of audio. The entry process for that will open up next month, and a bit later on we'll be hearing from some of our Young Award winners from last year as they interview KISS breakfast presenters and diversity dancers Jordan and Perry. With the end goal of creating a young, diverse future talent pool for our industry, one of the best qualities of radio is its opportunity to speak to wide audiences in an authentic voice. And we have a responsibility and a strong incentive to continue to invest in that pipeline. With the future in mind, in the second week of COP26, I'm delighted to highlight Radiocentres' involvement in AdNet Zero, an important initiative to ensure a greener future for the advertising sector, something we're all very invested in. I managed to cover a lot of ground in what I hope was a short space of time, or certainly felt like it. I believe in radio that's what's called a tight link, and try to learn quickly, but you're going to hear plenty more throughout today's event about radio's future, from big talent, new stations, digital innovations, and growing importance of audio branding. We are living in a period of immense challenge.